Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dave Silova. I'm the general manager here at Forest Lawn. I'd like to welcome you all to our Memorial Day 2012 celebration. At this time, I would like to invite our scouts forward to place a wreath. Would everyone stand, please? You'll see in your program our outline of our service today, and at this time we're going to post our colors.
Color guard, post, colors. Hand salute. Two.
Stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight. O'er the ramparts we watched, where so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
We should now recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Comrades, this day is sacred with the almost visible presence of those who have gone before us. We honor the memory of those who gave their lives in the service of our country and of those who have dropped their burdens by the wayside of life and are gone to their eternal rest. May the ceremonies of today deepen your reverence for our departed friends and comrades. Let us renew our pledge of loyalty to our country and its flag. Let us resolve by word and deed to emphasize the privilege and duty of patriotism. Let us pray. Almighty God, we thank Thee for the opportunities which abide in our land, for Thy guidance in the hour of peril, and for Thy tender love in times of need. Help us to remember with reverence the valor and devotion of our departed comrades, not only those whose bodies consecrate our country's soil, but also those who sleep beyond the seas, and those others who are resting in places who will not be known until that last day when the deep will have given up its dead. O God, teach us to honor them by ever cherishing the ideals for which they fought. Keep us steadfast in the cause of human rights and liberties, of law and order, and of true Americanism. Give us the power to see and the will to do right. Grant that the American Legion may preserve the high ideals for which our comrades died. May thy merciful blessing rest upon those they left behind. Keep us forever firm in righteousness, humble of heart, and unselfish in purpose. Amen. Thank you all for coming today. My name is Chris Shea. I'm the West Seattle Post 160 American Legion Commander. This is the 7th time, I believe, I've been up here on this hill looking out on all the beautiful crosses and flags. I must thank all the Boy Scouts and the personnel here at Forest Lawn who have worked so hard on putting out the crosses and flags. Thanks also to veterans that helped out from various veterans organizations around West Seattle, Seattle, and King County. Thank you very much. It's beautiful today. As you look around this cemetery, the majority of those flags here are from those who served in World War II and followed by those who served in World War I. We have come to honor all of our veterans who have fought for our country. Just a note, this cemetery has veterans here from every war since the American Civil War. These men and women who have fought for our nation have always been prepared to give the ultimate sacrifice for us. They have fought in the air, the land, and the sea. Memorial Day was established after the Civil War to honor those who fought on both sides. Today I wear a poppy on my lapel. Poppies became a symbol of the horrible battles of World War I. Poppies grew on the graves of those who gave their lives in France and Belgium. There was a poem named On Flanders Fields, written by John McCrae, that became famous during World War I. In Flanders fields the poppies blow, between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky, the larks, still bravely singing, fly. Scarce heard amid the guns below, we are the dead. Short days ago, we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow. Loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe, to you from failing hands we throw. The torch be yours to hold it high, if ye break faith with us who die. We shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields. John McCrae was a Canadian lieutenant colonel and a physician. I quote Wikipedia. McCrae fought in the Second Battle of Ypres in the Flanders region of Belgium, where the German army launched one of the first chemical attacks in the history of war. They attacked the Canadian position with chlorine gas on April 22, 1915, but were unable to break through the Canadian line, which held for over 2 weeks. In a letter written to his mother, McCrae described the battle as a nightmare. He wrote, "For 17 days and 17 nights, none of us have had our clothes off, nor our boots even, except occasionally. In all that time, while I was awake, gunfire and rifle fire never ceased for 60 seconds, and behind it all was the constant background of the sights of the dead, the wounded, the maimed, and a terrible anxiety lest the line should give way." A friend of his, Alexis Helmer, was killed during the battle on May 2nd. McCrae performed the burial service himself, at which time he noted how the poppies quickly grew around the graves of those who died at Ypres. The next day, he composed the poem while sitting in the back of an ambulance. The past few years that I've been up here, I've read the citations of those who have been awarded the Medal of Honor. Today I'm going to change that around a little, although who I talk about also was awarded a Medal of Honor. This past winter, I read a biography about General Douglas MacArthur. What I remember about MacArthur is grandparents, aunts, and uncles discussing him at Thanksgiving or Christmas or a 4th of July picnic. They heatedly debated whether Truman should have fired him in Korea or let him go on and invade China. I'm not sure why they always talked about Douglas MacArthur, but I had two uncles who fought in World War II, and I'm sure all of their neighbors, my grandparents' neighbors, my grandparents, all had sons and daughters, for that matter, who helped out in the war effort. And those generations had many friends and family that never came back. MacArthur. What I learned about Douglas MacArthur was, for me, a little inspiring. He was born in 1880. He was over 60 years old when the United States entered World War II. He had entered West Point in 1899. His first duty as a commissioned officer was in the Philippines. As a junior officer, he toured the Far East. He saw Japan, China, Java, Singapore, Siam, Burma, India. He toured all that over 100 years ago. He fought in World War I. He arrived a colonel in France and left a brigadier general. After World War I, he was named the superintendent of West Point. In 1924, at 44 years old, he became the Army's youngest major general. In 1928, the head of the U.S. Olympic team, the commissioner, suddenly died, and MacArthur was named the U.S. Olympic Committee chairman, and he ensured the U.S. team was ready to compete that year in Amsterdam. In 1930, MacArthur was named Chief of Staff of the U.S. Army by Hoover and remained under Roosevelt into 1935, when he went to the Philippines, where he was named the U.S. Military Advisor to the Commonwealth of the Philippines. In 1937, he retired from the U.S. Army, but he remained in the Philippines. Of course, in the 4 years that went on, relations around the world deteriorated, of course, in Europe and Asia, which led the United States to World War I. Or World War II, pardon me. On July 26, 1941, Roosevelt recalled MacArthur to service. He stayed in Manila. Remember, the United States had not entered the war yet, but the country was moving to a war footing. Entering World War II was very unpopular in the United States. We must remember that at the time. MacArthur attempted to fortify the Philippines from a Japanese invasion. At 3:30 a.m. on December 8, 1941, MacArthur was notified that Pearl Harbor had been attacked. Remember, there was no internet, no satellite broadcasting, cable news. It was hard to get information around. The situation was very chaotic, and communications with Washington were difficult. The duty officer in the Philippines heard it over a radio broadcast. The U.S. Army in the Philippines was not prepared, and like Pearl Harbor, MacArthur's Air Force was destroyed on the ground. They did get some planes off. However, they had returned to refuel and arm when the Japanese attacked at about 12:30 in the afternoon. As you know, the Japanese defeated the United States in the Philippines. MacArthur and his army retreated to Corregidor and Bataan. In February 1942, Roosevelt ordered MacArthur to leave Bataan and relocate to Australia. He was to leave his army behind. To him, that was a disgrace, but the president gave him the order to do so. MacArthur escaped Bataan in a PT boat, then flew in a B-17 to Mindanao, to Alice Springs, Australia, and then finally down to Adelaide. He said, "I made it through and I shall return," which we've all heard in one form or another. So I didn't come up here just to talk about MacArthur's actions, but if I may be so bold as to say what I felt he learned from this failure. After his arrival in Australia, he was named Supreme Commander of Allied Forces in the Southwest Pacific area. His mission was to defend Australia from Japanese invasion. At the time, Australia had more troops in Europe and India than remained in Australia. The situation seemed dire. They were ready for Japan to invade at any time. So reading about MacArthur, many historians argue that he developed the leapfrog techniques that saved Allied as well as enemy lives. He developed new air, sea, and land fighting techniques, and probably best of all, he was able to integrate them. Certainly, MacArthur had a great support staff, But reading the biography about him and some other sources I've read following up on it, he overpowered them. He felt he was in charge. So it's been long known that an army travels on its stomach. MacArthur recognized this and attacked where it was least expected, bypassing Japanese strongholds, thereby cutting them off from their supply lines. We've all heard about the landings on Normandy, and probably about MacArthur's Korean War landing at Incheon. But we don't hear much about MacArthur's multiple landings throughout the Southwest Pacific. In MacArthur's own words, "My strategic conception for the Pacific Theater, which I outlined after the Papuan campaign, have since consistently advocated. It contemplates massive strokes against only main strategic objectives, utilizing surprise and air-ground striking power supported and assisted by the fleet. This is the very opposite of what is termed island hopping, which is the gradual pushing back of the enemy by direct frontal pressure with the consequent heavy casualties which will certainly be involved. Key points must of course be taken, but a wise choice of such will obviate the need for storming the massive islands now in enemy possession. Island hopping, with extravagant losses and slow progress, is not my idea of how to end the war as soon and as cheaply as possible. New conditions require for solution, and new weapons require for maximum application new and imaginative methods. Wars are never won in the past." So the one single statistic that impressed me the most was that during MacArthur's 3-year campaign, starting in Australia in 1942 until he recaptured the Philippines in 1945, his campaigns in the Southwest Pacific sustained fewer casualties than the 2-week Battle of the Bulge. Of course, we've seen photos of him in wrinkled khakis on the deck of the USS Missouri at the end of the war in Tokyo Bay. After the war, MacArthur and his staff helped Japan institute a democratic government. Like the U.S. helped both European allies and enemies rebuild, MacArthur led the U.S. efforts to rebuild Japan, our former enemy. MacArthur's staff drafted a new constitution that renounced war and stripped the emperor of his military authority. The Constitution outlawed a standing army, instituted suffrage and equal rights for women, guaranteed other fundamental human rights, and outlawed racial discrimination. Prior to MacArthur, Japan was a feudal system. Very few landowners, but very many tenant farmers. MacArthur instituted land reform, which stripped the rich landowners of their land and allowed former tenant farmers to own their land. MacArthur also broke up the large industrial conglomerates that controlled much of Japanese industry prior to the war. After he returned from Japan in 1951, in a joint session to Congress, he spoke about what he had done in Japan. Quote, "The Japanese people since the war have undergone the greatest reformation recorded in modern history. With a commendable will and eagerness to learn and marked capacity to understand, they have from the ashes left in war's wake erected in Japan an edifice dedicated to the supremacy of individual liberty and personal dignity. And in the ensuing process, there has been created a truly representative government committed to the advance of political morality, freedom of economic enterprise, and social justice." Today, let us return to West Seattle, here to Forest Lawn, and remember again those who fought so bravely so that we may be free. Free in our individual liberties. We've maintained our personal dignity, and we're free to pursue our freedoms of economic enterprise, and we're free to pursue social justice. Let us remember that individual actions on the battlefield, as well at home, can assist the common cause. So talking about liberty and how this country can be great, the last 7 times I've read the following page and a half or so. So I like these words and I feel they're appropriate. I think they give us, as Americans, hope to even be better. These words were written over 50 years ago by a man named Vermont Royster. And the essay is called "And the Fair Land." I feel these words are very appropriate today. Anyone whose labors take him into the far reaches of the country is bound to mark how the years have made the land grow fruitful. This is indeed a big country, a rich country, in a way no array of figures can measure, and so in a way past belief of those who have not seen it. Even those who journey through its northeastern complex, into the southern lands, across the central plains, and to its western slopes, can only glimpse a measure of the bounty of America. And a traveler cannot be struck on his journey by the thought that this country, one day, can be even greater. America, though many know it not, is one of the great underdeveloped countries of the world. What it reaches for exceeds by far what it has grasped. So the visitor returns thankful for much of what he has seen, and in spite of everything, an optimist about what his country might be. Yet the visitor, if he is to make an honest report, must also note the air of unease that hangs everywhere. For the traveler, as travelers have been always, is as much questioned as questioning. And for all the abundance he sees, he finds the questions put to him where men may find condolence from the troubles that beset them. His countrymen cannot forget the savage face of war. Too often they have been asked to fight in strange and distant places for no clear purpose they could see and for no accomplishments they could measure. Their spirits are not quieted by the thought that the good and pleasant bounty that surrounds them can be destroyed in an instant by a single bomb. Yet they find no escape, for their survival and comfort now depend on unpredictable strangers in far-off corners of the globe. How can they turn from melancholy when at home they see young arrayed against old, black against white, neighbor against neighbor, so that they stand in peril of social discord? Or not despair when they see the cities and the countryside are in need of repair, yet find themselves threatened by scarcities of the resources that sustain their way of life? Or when, in the face of these challenges, they turn for leadership to men in high places, only to find those men as frail as any others. So sometimes the traveler is asked, whence will come their relief? What is to preserve their abundance, or even their civility? How can they pass on to their children a nation as strong and free as the one they inherited from their forefathers? How is their country to endure these cruel storms that beset it from without and from within? Of course, the stranger cannot quiet their spirits, for it is true that everywhere men and women turn their eyes today, much of the world has a truly wild and savage hue. No man, if he be truthful, can say that the specter of war is banished, nor can he say that when men or communities are put upon their own resources, they are sure of solace, nor be sure that men of diverse kinds and diverse views can live peaceably together in times of troubles. But we can all remind ourselves that the richness of this country was not born in the resources of the earth, though they may be plentiful, but in the men and women that took its measure. For that reminder is everywhere, in the cities, in the towns, on the farms, on the roads, in the factories, in the homes, in hospitals, and in schools that spread everywhere over that great wilderness. We can remind ourselves that for all of our social discord, we yet remain the longest enduring society of free people governing themselves without the benefit of kings or dictators. Being so, we are the marvel and the mystery of the world, for that enduring liberty is no less a blessing than the abundance of the earth. Now I look out among the cemetery, look at the skies. I'm glad the weather's held up for us today. Let us remember our veterans again, and we might remind ourselves also to give thanks and to remember these brave men and women who fought for this nation, who now lie under the quiet sod, or beneath the murmuring waves, whose bodies now sleep in peace. But in the destinies of veterans, their souls go marching on. Because of them, our lives are free. Because of them, our nation lives. They fought for us, and for us they fell. Now, with one accord and deepest reverence, we owe them honor. Let us not remember them in anguish. They would not wish our pity. For their sakes, let us not forget the loved ones they left behind. Our tears or words of sympathy cannot bring back the comfort of those loving hands or the music of those voices stilled. Only the solemn pride of having give more than all the rest is theirs who live to weep. Comrades, on this Memorial Day, let us pledge ourselves anew to patriotic service. Let us make ourselves the friend or neighbor, the brother or sister, the daughter or mother, the son or father of those who will not see their own again in the mortal flesh. Let us grasp with fearless hand the flag so nobly borne before, and like those others, plant it always on the battlements of righteousness. Let us remember our solemn memories of our heroic dead. I read an epitaph up at Lakeview Cemetery. The author is unknown. Because we don't know when we will die, we get to think of life as an inexhaustible well. Yet everything happens a certain number of times, and a very small number, really. How many more times will you remember a certain afternoon of your childhood? Some afternoon that's so deeply a part of your being that you can't even conceive of your life without it. Perhaps 4 or 5 more, perhaps not even that. How many more times will you watch the full moon rise? Perhaps 20, 30? And yet it all seems limitless. I want to thank you all for coming today. We're going to continue on with our program. David? Please rise for taps. Color guard, retire the colors. Hand salute. Two.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of rain, for purple mountains' majesty, above the fruited plain. America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood, from sea to shining sea.
Please sing the rest of the song with me.
Oh, beautiful for pilgrim feet, who stood in passion stress, a thoroughfare of freedom beat across the wilderness. America, God mend thine every flaw, confirm
It's Lucy Weber, everyone, from the Seattle Opera. I'd like to thank Lucy. I'd also like to thank Chris Shea and the gentleman from Legion here today, Post 160 here in West Seattle. Thank you all for joining us today. It's wonderful. The weather held out for us. We weren't really sure about that. But feel free to stay and visit some of the folks that you know that's here in Forest Lawn. Thank you all very much.